First things first, if I need to stop a few times in the recording of this video, please be patient because it's hard to speak. What has occurred? So this is June of 2023. We had some fires in Canada, and the weather conditions brought the smoke to Pennsylvania. And I have been working as a groundskeeper outside. Bear with me, my dates may not be right, so I'm not even going to give dates, but I believe it was a Wednesday. No, it was a Tuesday. I went into work, and I had the feeling on the way to work, like uneasiness. Something just felt off, like I didn't know. Something wasn't right, but I didn't know what it was. I drove to work, and the whole time I had to walk to the maintenance shop. I clocked in and walked to the maintenance shop, and the whole time I just had this nagging feeling like something wasn't right. And the best way I could describe it would be to say that I felt like there was somewhere I needed to be, but it wasn't where I was. I even commented about that to one of my coworkers. So I got to work and I went out to the garage to start gathering the supplies that I would need for the day. And I couldn't stop. I noticed that I was constantly staring at the sky. The garage door, the shop has a garage door, a very large garage door. It might be a 2-bay single garage door. And I was staring outside and I kept looking at the sky. And there was this haze way up high in the sky. And I didn't know what it was because I don't watch the news and I'm, not in tune with what's going on in the world. And my coworker, Bruce, said to me, he said, "What's up, miss?" And I said, I don't know. But I couldn't stop looking out the garage door at the sky. I just stood there. And I was aware that this was occurring, but I didn't understand it. So he just kind of shook his head and gave me a puzzled look. And I said, "Did you ever get the feeling like there was somewhere you needed to be, but it wasn't where you were, and you don't know where that is?" And I can't remember if he said yes or no. I can't remember because I was trying to be very aware of what was going on in my mind, in my body in that moment. Okay. So I said, well, kind of telling myself to get my act together so I can get started with my day. So I gathered the stuff I needed and I went to work outside. I came home that night and I was briefly scrolling on Facebook before I went to bed, and I saw that someone had made a post that said about these fires in Canada made it smell like a campfire outside. And I thought, okay. Not knowing for sure where this person lived and what was going on, and so that's all it was. So the next day, in the morning, my husband came home from work because he was working overnight. So he worked until like 5 a.m. So he came home and he said, "Miss, this is what's going on." And it's all smoky out where he was working. And he says we had to close the garage doors because it got so smoky. And I'm like, okay. So that was 6 o'clock in the morning. That's time for me to get up and get ready for work. So I messaged my boss and said, "This is what I'm told. Is this true? Like, do I need to worry about this?" because I'm working in a different town than where I live. It's not far away, but it's, with the weather, it can be raining in one place and not raining in another. So he said he sent me the alert and said yes. And I said, okay, well, how is it? Can you smell it? Because I have allergy induced asthma, this body, that is a complication for this body. So he said it's not bad. And I'm like, okay. And, I didn't care one way or the other because I have an inhaler, a rescue inhaler. And this, I just thought, well, if it gets bad enough, I'll use my inhaler and I'll come home. So I went into work. It was okay for a while. I think I was there almost 3 hours, and the wind picked up. And when the wind picked up, my chest started to get tight, and I was like, okay, I need to go back to the shop. I need to use my inhaler, and I need to go home. I got to get out of here. It's really weird when it's something that's outside, because usually it's, when these things happen, it's something inside and I can go outside to get away from it. So that's interesting comparison with consciousness and what's going on. But here we go. So I couldn't stay outside and I needed to go indoors. So I went back to the shop, and on the way back, I stopped. I saw a couple different people out, and I stopped and said, hey, listen, the air quality is not good out here right now. Please be mindful of your body. Don't stay out here longer than you need to. Because, if my chest tightens, I'm like a first alert system. It's like it's happening to every body that's there, but they can't feel it like I can because I have this sensitivity. So I came home early and stayed home the next day because my husband came home and said overnight it had been worse. And they were anticipating that it was going to clear up sometime Thursday, but I just had the feeling like I needed to not be there for some reason. So I stayed home. I'd used my inhaler the day I worked a partial and didn't seem to have any more issues. So I went to work Friday and everything was fine. I did use my Bronchaid, which is another thing that's a bronchodilator, which helps. And I came home, everything was fine. Over the weekend, we had some trash that needed to be burned, and because we had gotten a little rain, we decided to burn the trash. And I was outside painting closet doors, set up sawhorses outside, and I was painting outside, and the smoke just kept wafting at me, even though it was, oh my gosh, 100 feet away, 50, 60 feet away from me. But it just kept wafting at me. And, I was not thinking that I needed to do something to protect my lungs. So I just kept going. By Sunday night, I felt like there was an elephant sitting on my chest. So, even though I'd used the Bronchaid and inhalers and whatever, that's what happened. Okay. Now this is Tuesday night, and I've been doing some essential oil treatments, actually ingesting them, and whatever. There are people that are for it, people that are against it. I don't care. This is what I was doing, and taking an inhaler and, putting essential oils in a mask and breathing them in, because I think that's actually a really good use for these disposable masks. Anyway, peppermint, eucalyptus, rosemary, stuff like that. So now we get to the gist of it. I'm making this video because I'm not sure if this is going to be my last video. I have been having uh, complications with my body, certainly since the whole end of 2019 rolled around. And I've been having these issues of different illnesses and complications with this asthma stuff that something like I've never had. I mean, and it seems to be frequent. So here we are. You know, people talk about ascension sickness and all this stuff, but I digress. Somewhere in 2020, 2021, I don't remember, I had what was for me a really terrible breakup with a man that I had been in relationship with, and I had extended myself. I had extended myself a lot financially, emotionally, all this stuff. And every safety or lack thereof was triggered by that relationship. I came to see how unsafe I felt in this relationship, on and on and on. Not because he was abusive or anything, but because he was an addict who had abandoned his program and his recovery program. And there were all these things coming up. And I had invested so much in the relationship financially, emotionally, and otherwise. And because I had a small child who was also emotionally invested, I was really, really how do I want to say? I was very hesitant to end things because even though, you know, it should have been obvious to me what was going on, I wanted to believe the best. I really wanted him to be the one. And, you know, and because I'd already invested so much financially and otherwise, I felt like I didn't want to cut things off because I was going to be screwed. I was going to be in a really bad financial position because I had overextended myself. And if we split and he wasn't going to help, which ended up happening. So we did end up splitting. He did not help. And it is what it is. So, you know, during that, the whole emotional fear, everything with that relationship ending, I had to face a lot of stuff about where I feel unsafe in the world, which catapulted me into a whole new awareness of myself as divine, what it means to be in the world but not of the world, and on and on and on. Letting go of these things, these programs, these ideas, these concepts. So I'm remarried now to my very best friend in the whole world, and here's where we are today. So the body is doing what the body is doing. I am treating the body how I feel I should treat it. If my husband knew how I was feeling the body I was feeling on a physical level, he would probably put a bag over my head and drag me to a doctor. But that's not what I'm feeling inclined to do. Because I'm just, you know, I haven't subscribed to all of the world's they're not really mandates, but they are. So I'm kind of just winging it here, okay? And I have come to accept, and I accepted it through the course of that breakup a couple of years ago, that when it's my time to go, it's my time to go. So I was in the shower and I was feeling everything going on inside this body physically. And I'm not going to give details about that, but I got emotional thinking about, the pain and the suffering and the depravity and all of these things that we experience here as humans. And recognizing that in myself, I'm not willing to work extremely hard to avoid leaving this experience. I'm really okay with leaving the experience. And then, I was thinking about my child and my husband and how sad they would be. And that really struck me hard, really hard. More of it, though, is like a fear. So here we are again, looking at these fears. It's a fear of what will happen to my husband? What will happen to my son if I'm not here? Okay. So then my higher self, my soul would say, what will happen to them is exactly what needs to happen to them for their highest good. Because these things are not in our control. So this level of acceptance means I know we do not incarnate in human form without our soul agreeing to that and wanting that. I also know that we do not leave this incarnation without the soul agreeing to that. And that's everybody, everyone. Okay? So if this body no longer functions and it's no longer animated, it is because my soul agreed to that. I'm okay with that. And I find this ironic because my son just asked me yesterday. He said, Mom, how would you like to die? Just kind of out of the blue, how would you like to die? And I said, First thing I said was in my sleep. And then I said, painlessly. Painlessly. Whatever that is. That seemed to satisfy his mind. And that was just yesterday. So I'm making this video because I want it to be documented what actually occurred that led up to in if the body dies, that this is actually what happened. Okay. Asthma complications from those fires, the smoke in our atmosphere coming toward us, and then reintroduced, adding, being exposed to more smoke, on and on and on. Now, this body will be set into an asthma attack from cigarette smoke if it's too much, too close. Okay, so smoke like we had with, we couldn't open the windows. We had to keep the windows closed in the house, and if I walked outside, which I had to do to potty our dogs, it was bad. So this was pretty extreme. And then again on Sunday, sorry, I'm going to have to cough, so just a second. Okay. On Sunday, because we were burning and I was getting wafted by that smoke, it just complicated an issue that was probably already, like, the lungs were already irritated, and on and on and on. So be that as it may. I'm just making this video to document what's really going on in the event that I leave the body. And and I wanted to leave this message for those who would feel some kind of way about that, and who might be angry that I didn't do more in an attempt to prevent that. Okay. So, from the position that I see the world meaning reality, not the world meaning the earthly experience, that if it's not my time to leave the body, I'm not going to leave the body. If I leave the body, it's for the highest good of all involved. No matter how callous that might sound. My husband often makes the comment, death is easy, living is hard. And that's so. From this perspective, but it's very important for people to understand that when a loved one passes on, leaves the body, they do so, the personality that may be in the body, they might not know or understand, but the soul has to be in agreement or it can't happen. This is the power of our true identity, who we truly are. And anyone who doesn't believe that, you only have to look to the stories that so many of us have heard about people who defied the seemingly impossible and survived. And my husband is one of those people. Has survived some pretty horrendous physical accidents, and still does all that he does. Little natty bugs like this light. So there's really, and but I also understand, having looked at this, why loved ones will sometimes wait until we leave the room to leave the body, because they feel the pain and the grief of those who are in the room suffering, because their loved ones are in a state of suffering and grief because they can't see their life without this personality being in it, because they don't understand that there's something so much greater than the personality. It's the oneness that animates everybody. It's the oneness, it's the all, it's the one, the Christ that animates every individual body. Is there a soul that has taken on an identity? Sure, if you however you want to see that. We are each an individuation of the point of attention of God. We each are a ray of the sun. We each are, and it's really about your focus. I am the Missy who focuses on the things that I am predisposed, or not programmed, but programmed. Yes, because it is kind of a program that occurs with incarnation, right? So I'm hardwired to notice certain things, to focus on certain things, to ignore certain things. And this is, and you know, I've stated this before. This is why when something occurs, there are 3 people watching a scene play out, an accident, whatever. Every one of them will have a slightly different version of the story because they are hardwired to focus in on certain things, because each of them is an aspect of God having the human experience, having individuation, an individual personality, individual point of focus. And that could get really complicated if I were to break it all down, but I'm not going to. So each of us is hardwired to notice and not notice certain things that allow us to participate in the human experience as agreed upon prior to incarnation. This ties in with astrology or astronomy, however you want to see it. You know, the time of your birth, correlating with the position of the planets, that creates certain dispositions of behavior, of attitude, of perception. And that hardwired program, one of many, can be overcome if one chooses. So the more we stop identifying with the small I, the self, the personality, the ego, however you want to call it, the more we no longer identify with that false self, as some say, the less we are ruled by, but I don't, that's harsh. I'm always like trying to soften this. The less we are guided and directed by that false self, the more we see ourselves as part of the one. When we see ourselves as part of the one, we know that everyone else is part of the one also. So by getting to that level of knowing, skin color is none of these things. It's not even that they don't matter. It's that it is celebrated. Okay? So when you get to the point of knowing that you're all part of the one, part of source, part of God, an aspect, a divine focus of attention, an individuated ray of the sun, you celebrate the differences in your physical form and in your human experience. You celebrate it. You rejoice in it. So like I would say, if I leave the body, I would say then those fires in Canada helped facilitate me leaving the body. We would rejoice in it. And there are those that will say, and maybe it's true, that these fires were intentionally created. They were created or started. I don't know that that's so, but there are those who will say it. And they'll deem it a bad thing, okay? But from the level of spirit or soul, nothing is bad. Nothing is bad and nothing is good, and everything is here for our good. For our good. It's happening for us. What are you going to do with it? You know? We look at tragedies that have occurred in our world, and so many are not able to see the beauty in it. And even to speak those words, there are those who would condemn me for saying that the souls that participated in those tragedies, in those events, because at the level of spirit, there's no such thing as right, wrong, bad, or good. Those who participated in those events that occurred, in fact, did so fully knowing, fully agreeing to their participation, fully agreeing to the outcome of that participation. Okay? Why would they do that? To give many the opportunity to see, to understand, to choose anew, to elevate their consciousness, and many other reasons that our human minds are not capable of understanding. Many people today, because I've been homesick and all I could do was read, and was really confined to my recliner much of the day because my walking too far would cause me to be very short of breath. And, you know, you can only take those inhalers so much because they make you jittery as hell. So anyway, I try to limit that as much as I can because I don't like that jittery feeling. I am not an addict. I don't like that feeling. Excuse me. So, seeing things from this place that I'm speaking of makes this place, this earthly experience, very lonely for those of us that see this way. And many, because as I said, I have tuned in without the ability to do much else. I've been tuning into those that I feel comforted by, that feel like family to me. And they are, many of them, speaking about this feeling alone and how so many people are feeling alone. There are those of us who are able to be a friend, are able to listen without, I would say, without as much judgment, because even I find myself sometimes creating labels and identities. But there are those of us who certainly can listen without condemnation. And all that means is that we recognize our judgments and we catch ourselves before we get to the point of condemnation. And there are probably many that are further along the path than I am who can listen with relatively little judgment. I would say when we get to the point of no judgment, we're probably not going to be in a human body anymore because we won't need it. Although there will be those who will take on the robes of some level of judgment in order to stay and be a helpmate to those who have yet to reach that point. So that's really all this video was for. And it's like 35 minutes in now. I'm going to take a little pause here and tune in and see if there was anything else that I should add to this, except this. If any of you who watch this video actually know me in person, know my husband, know my son, if I do leave this body, will you please direct them to this video or somehow get this video to them, because my son does not have Facebook and my husband doesn't have access to his Facebook page. I don't think he does YouTube. I don't think he knows anything about a lot of that stuff. So I don't know that he's ever watched a video that I put on my YouTube channel. Why would he? He gets it firsthand. Anyway, let me take a quick pause and check in, and I'll be right back. So I hate to get real mushy here, but this is as I'm inspired to do. So if I do leave the body, and you're watching this, oh, be of good cheer. Be of good cheer. There's no reason to be sad. There's no reason to be afraid. You have all the power. You have all the power going forward that you had when I was here. Nothing has changed. This is a body. It is a communication device. That which animates it is eternal. There is no reason to be sad. And I will always be there. Because we are one. We are one. All you ever have to do is think of me, and I am there. That's all you have to do. You just think of me, and I'll be there with you. That is the great secret. We can never be separated. None of us. None of us. You are loved more than you know. May you be blessed, and may you bless the world.